Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Welcome to today's live stream. I'm Tyler Hakes, and I'm really excited to dig in with y'all today. We are going to be talking about AI. And you've probably heard a million things about AI. You've probably read a million things about AI. In this workshop, we're going to go in a slightly different direction. We're going to be talking about how to use AI for everything but the words. And what I mean by that is using AI throughout your content creation and optimization and planning workflows without using content to actually write content. If you're like me, you're probably sick of hearing about AI as a writing tool, and you're more interested in how do I use AI to help me plan better and create content in a smarter way and be more efficient in my briefing and strategy work. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Really excited to dig into a bunch of specific use cases and workflows for how you can do that. Before we jump in, I have a few of my normal announcements to make. First and foremost, if you've not already, please hit like on this video. So that's going to help other folks find our content, join our community. Number two, hit the subscribe button. We're actually 10 subscribers away from 2,000. So would love to hit that milestone today if that's at all possible. So hit that subscribe button. It's going to keep you up to date on all of our upcoming content. We've actually got a series of clips and videos and shorts and other video content that's coming out exclusively on our YouTube channel right now. So lots of great content from past sessions, from Freelance Fest that we had a couple months ago. We'll also, of course, always post all of our upcoming sessions on YouTube. So for instance, later this month on Halloween, spooky, I know, we have our next SEO roundtable core updates. We're going to have some SEO experts on. We're going to talk about all of the changes that are continuing to happen in the world of SEO and everything that you need to know to stay on top of that. So hit that subscribe button. Join us for our future sessions. Get access to all of those clips, shorts, and great little takeaways and snippets. Lots of awesome content from amazing folks that we've had the pleasure of having on our live streams, workshops, etc. in the past. Hit that subscribe button. Would love to have you. Number two, if you're not already a member of Tofu, I'm shocked, but I will still invite you to join us. Join tofu.co. This is our 100% free community. We have over 4,000 members now, freelancers, in-house marketers, agency folks, all kinds of different people who are just talking about content marketing and SEO, sharing ideas, asking questions, getting feedback, posting work opportunities, finding work opportunities. Lots of amazing things happening inside the Tofu Slack. All you have to do to sign up is go to jointofu.co. You fill out the form. You'll get an invite to join us inside. As I said, it's 100% free. So if you haven't already joined, pop over there to jointofu.co and would love to have you inside. Amazing. Well, those are my quick announcements. I'll just lead off here before we dive in and say, pop in the chat, say hello. Let me know who's here and who's joining us. I am live, so happy to take questions as we go through things today. If you want to dive into anything, I will be here to answer questions as best I can. Okay, let's get into it. So as I said, today we're going to be talking about everything but the words. So we're going to be talking about how to use AI to plan, create, and optimize content without using AI to actually write or generate the content for you. So as I said, many of you are probably writers. You're probably sick of hearing about how AI can write content. We all know it does a decent job of writing mediocre content. But what about all the other ways that we can be using AI to be smarter, better, faster, stronger, etc.? So that's what we're going to be focused on today. Now, as I said, you've heard AI is everywhere. Of course, this has been the topic du jour for going on 2 years now. So we're going to try to take this workshop in a little bit of a different direction. We're going to try to focus on all of these other workflows and use cases for AI. And I hope you'll learn something interesting and new in today's workshop. So here are some of the use cases that we're going to cover on in this session. Number one, we're going to talk about keyword discovery. So how do you go and find really great keywords that you can target. Ideally, things that aren't super competitive. They're maybe a little under the radar. Maybe your competitors haven't found them yet. Maybe they don't show up in every keyword research tool out there. So finding those sort of hidden gem keywords, sometimes they're long tail, sometimes they're specific, sometimes they're, industry or use case tied to a specific industry or use case. Hey, Travis, I just saw you pop in the chat. Thanks so much. Good to see you here. We're going to talk about topic clusters. So taking those keywords that you discover and then forming them into topic clusters is really sort of a foundational strategy. So we want to talk about that. We're going to talk about localization and translation. I'm seeing more and more, I'm seeing interest in companies, even like US and English-speaking companies who want to start to expand into international audiences, move into international content, localized content in Spanish or French or whatever other language. So we're going to talk about how you can also use AI in that process. We're going to talk about deep search intent. So this is one of my favorites personally. It's really about understanding the intent or the reader's goal associated with a specific topic or keyword beyond just the basic buckets of search intent. So we're going to dig into that. We're going to talk about mapping out your content structure and flow. So building that initial outline, kind of figuring out what is the shape and the form and the function of the content. And again, using AI to help you do that, but without necessarily relying on AI to do it for you. We're going to talk about topical coverage analysis. So we're going to get pretty wonky here, but we'll talk about how you can understand how deep and well your content covers the topic at hand and ways that you can use AI to help you improve that. We're going to talk about titles and meta descriptions. This one's pretty straightforward, but again, using AI to write custom titles and meta descriptions, but not just, hey, write a title and meta description based on a keyword or based on a topic, but actually analyzing the content that you've written and having AI develop that title or meta description in a really compelling and unique way. And then we've got a bonus section here. We're going to talk about using AI in refresh and content optimization. We actually have a little bit of a sneak preview here of an upcoming to be released feature. So we'll be showing that as well. Before we get into it, I have to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Ahrefs. If you're not already an Ahrefs user, they just did something really exciting, which they rolled out the Ahrefs starter plan. So Ahrefs admittedly has been, probably out of the price range of a lot of folks, especially freelancers in the past. They've rolled out this starter plan that gives you access to basically all of the tools within the Ahrefs platform, but for a much more affordable price. So for $29 a month, you're going to be able to get access to the Site Explorer, the Keyword Explorer, the Site Audit tools, all kinds of stuff that are going to help you. Most of the features that we're going to talk about today are going to be included in that plan, at least to some degree. There are credits involved here, just full disclosure there. But it's $29 a month, so it's much cheaper than their other plans that are more geared towards businesses. You can check out the starter plan by going to bit.ly/Ahrefs October. That's all lowercase, bit.ly/Ahrefs October. There's also a bit.ly link in the video description below here. So go ahead and hit that link to learn all about the starter plan, what's included, what you're going to get access to. All that being said, Ahrefs is the sponsor of today's workshop. So we're going to be focused on Ahrefs features, AI-powered features for these workflows. Now, you may be able to recreate some of this functionality using other tools or ChatGPT or Claude or any of these other AI tools. But for this workshop, we're going to be focused on using kind of the built-in AI functionality of Ahrefs and how it plays out in real time. Okay, let's jump into it. We're going to start by talking about keyword discovery and building topic clusters. Before we dive into actual keyword research, I want to just do a quick primer here for folks who maybe aren't familiar with this idea of topic clusters. So when you do keyword research, generally the sort of preferred strategy for conducting keyword research and planning out your content around keywords is to form what are known as topic clusters. Basically, what this means is you want to have sort of a network of related topics that you're publishing content about, and then you want to use internal links to kind of help users and help Google understand that, hey, I don't just have one article about content marketing. I have a bunch of articles about the various facets of content marketing. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use AI to do our keyword research and really go deep on building out this topic cluster, right? So when you're building a topic cluster, there are some obvious things, right? So maybe hey, I want to go after content strategy, and I want to go after content marketing, and I want to go after, SEO or whatever, right? Obvious topics. But then there's a whole universe of keywords that, again, are maybe like hidden gems, are maybe not as obvious. And that's where AI is going to be super helpful in sort of brainstorming, or really, it's really not brainstorming, right? Because AI, it's using models to understand sort of topical relevance and sort of connect the dots on these keywords behind the scenes. So let's jump right into it. We're going to go look at some of the AI features and how AI can actually help generate those keywords and help us build a really comprehensive and robust topic cluster. Okay, so I'm going to switch over here to Ahrefs, and we're going to dive into the Keywords Explorer. Okay, so the Keywords Explorer is basically the keyword research tool within Ahrefs. Again, some of this stuff you'll be able to do with other tools, or even potentially, an AI app like ChatGPT. But the really cool thing about Ahrefs is that it has AI sort of baked in to the keyword research process and the other workflows that we're going to be talking about today. So let's just assume that our topic here is content marketing, right? So one way that we can approach keyword research, as I mentioned, is we could put in content marketing, we could hit search, we could get the results, and we could kind of sift through and try to find other keywords. Maybe we just do some old school brainstorming and come up with, content marketing strategy or some other term that we think we want to add to our keyword list. That's a great place to start. That's how most of us have sort of cut our teeth on keyword research and how we've learned how to do it over time. But here's the interesting thing, okay? Here's where we can use AI to go way beyond what we would probably come up with on our own, right? So if you click on this little box here in Ahrefs, what you're going to see is this whole list of sort of preset AI prompts that we can use to generate keyword ideas. Okay, so let's just use this first one as an example. Let's say we want to go deep on technical and specialized terms related to content marketing. All we have to do is put in sort of our seed topic, or our overarching kind of topic cluster. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate a whole bunch of keywords. Now, again, the really cool thing about this is because it's using AI, it's not just doing like a phrase match. It's not just doing, content marketing plus X word. It's actually understanding the semantic relationships between these keywords and these topics. And it's building out a robust list of topics that are related to content marketing, even if they don't have the word content marketing in the actual keyword, right? So you can see here things like editorial calendars, or buyer personas, or brand storytelling, or content syndication. Again, these are all relevant topics that are, if you're building out a content plan around the topic of content marketing, you could conceivably go after all of these topics. But to sit down and map that out manually would have been a challenge, right? Now, the really cool thing here again is that there are all of these different prompts that are preloaded, right? So we can talk about, challenges or pain points related to content marketing. So let's just try that one, and we'll see what it comes up with. And then, so here you go. I was going to go on a quick detour there while I was thinking, but it already gave me some things here. So again, look at some of the depth and like specificity of some of these keywords that it's generating, right? Measuring ROI, content saturation, audience engagement drop, content distribution issues, misalignment with customer needs. Now not every single keyword here is necessarily going to make it into our keyword plan, but you can see how quickly we can build this extremely detailed, deep, and rich list of keywords and topics that we might want to target. Okay, so as you can see here, again, there are all of these preset prompts. So we can go subtopics and niche areas. We can go comparative phrases, emerging trends, products and tools, historical concepts, future-oriented, controversial, myth-busting. There's all this kind of stuff. You can also write your own prompt, right? So once again, this is something that you could potentially do with other AI tools. But the nice thing about ChatGPT or about Ahrefs AI tool in their Keyword Explorer is that it already knows sort of the overarching task here, which is keyword research, and it has access to the entire database of the Ahrefs keyword universe, right? So it's not just making up keywords, it's actually looking at the database, it's looking at these semantic relationships, and generating these keywords based on the topic that you provide. So let's just come up with an idea here of a prompt that we might want to put in ourselves. So let's say, jobs to be done, focused keywords related to content marketing. Boom. And it's going to do some thinking here. And here you can see, right, it's talking, or it's getting more tactical, right? So it's looking at keywords that are associated with specific jobs to be done or specific steps in the process of doing content marketing, which from my perspective, right, that's how we generally approach keyword research, is we think about jobs to be done. So this kind of a prompt is super helpful. Now, again, the other really cool thing here is that you're not locked into one particular topic, right? You don't just have to focus only on content marketing. Let's say I'm doing, comprehensive keyword research and I wanted to focus on content marketing, but I also want to focus on SEO, right? That's a whole nother facet of content and marketing that we might be interested in, and we want to just go ahead and add that to our list. So let's just put it in here. I don't know if the capitalization matters, by the way, but I wanted to put it in there just because I'm pedantic. And boom, here you can see, it sort of, it still has the context of all of these keywords that we've already generated, but now it's sort of focused more on SEO topics. So we're sort of expanding the bubble of keywords. And really, again, I think that's how you want to approach content marketing. And that's what AI is really good at doing, is sort of taking the bubble that you already have and saying, okay, where are the edges of that bubble and how do we sort of push it one level further out? So again, this is one of my favorite things for how to sort of conduct keyword research, using this AI to really, go beyond what the human capability is, in my opinion, right? It's just really good at this because it can take into account all of these factors, all of these different angles, different approaches, without spending hours and hours, racking your brain or building out really complex spreadsheets or whatever your research methodology might be. That can still be a valuable part of your process, of course, but using AI, I think, just really expedites the process there. So that's keyword research. Let's talk a little bit about the next use case that I want to talk about. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is localization and translation. So as I've talked about before, I'm seeing more and more interest in this. I don't know about y'all, but it seems like more companies, U.S. based English speaking companies or companies that have traditionally targeted kind of the US and English market are looking to expand internationally. And so we're seeing more and more interest in the idea of localization and translation. Now, of course, there's all kinds of use cases for AI around the actual localization and translation of content. But we can also use it in this research process, right? So this is another really cool thing about the Ahrefs Keyword Explorer. And I'm going to flip back here to my screen and just show you kind of how it works. This tool has sort of multi-language capabilities built into it, right? So first of all, I can use any of these prompts. So look, I can do products and tools, suggest products and tools related to content marketing in Spanish. And what it's going to do is it's going to do the same exact process, but it's going to translate and localize those keywords to, I see, because they're products. Sorry, I picked a poor prompt. Let me try it again with a different prompt. It's gonna localize those keywords. So related to content marketing in Spanish. Let's try it one more time. So what you can do is you can use these prompts. Oh shoot, it's not working for some reason. I wonder if it's just because I have all of these already in English. Let's try it one more way, which is the way that I was actually using it before, which is to say, translate all of the previous keywords into Spanish. And there it goes. Okay, so there might be, you might need to separate this process if you're doing keyword research to do kind of like an English search and then a Spanish search, or have it sort of translate the keywords that you've already generated into Spanish. But the point here is that it can do keyword research, sort of original research from scratch in a foreign language. It can also translate or localize those keywords into various languages. So you can build out, again, if you're building out a content strategy, you can see already, right? I've got, probably close to 100 topics here in 2 different languages focused on content marketing and SEO from all these different angles. Right, I've built a really great foundation for an actual content strategy that I might want to pursue, or at least a keyword strategy that I might want to pursue with my content. And it took me 12 minutes. So again, as somebody who's done a lot of this keyword research over the years and spent a lot of time building out spreadsheets and manually compiling keyword ideas and generating keywords through various other tools, this use case, this workflow, in my opinion, is really a game changer for doing this initial heavy lifting, generating a lot of ideas that you can then sort of manually review and finalize as a strategist. Let's talk about the next workflow. So we talked about localization, we talked about translation. Now I want to get into something that I think is really interesting and really insightful, which is deep search intent. So the first thing I want to talk about is, if you're not, again, super familiar with the idea of search intent, the basic framework for search intent is that we break down search intent into one of 4 categories. Those 4 categories are informational, navigational, commercial, and transactional. And what this does is it gives us sort of a general bucket of, what kind of keyword is this? And at a very, very high level, what is the user looking for? Are they looking for information? Are they looking for a specific page or a specific website? Are they looking for a product? Are they looking to make a purchase or some kind of transaction? But that's really it, right? It doesn't really give us a lot of information. And so I love this meme because it kind of expresses my thoughts on the search intent buckets, which is like, okay, great. If a keyword is informational, that is helpful to know, I guess, but it doesn't really tell us much about what the reader actually wants, right? Within informational, you've got how-to posts, what is posts, you've got lists, you've got thought leadership, you've got, a million different types of content that are going to affect the way that you approach that keyword. And you don't get any of that information from these traditional 4 search intent buckets. So how do you actually go beyond kind of the basic concept of search intent and really get deeper into the specific nuance of what is someone actually looking for when they read this content, and what is the information they actually want, and then how should I structure my content to provide that? So deep search intent, or what we call internally at Optimist on our team, we talk about the reader's goal. Okay, so the basic idea here is pretty straightforward. It's, what is the reader trying to get out of this, right? People don't read content so that you can sell them products and services. They read content to pursue some specific goal or outcome that they have, and they're hoping that the content helps them do that. Now, if in the process they discover a product that's going to also help them, that's great. That's when content marketing works. But the point of deep search intent, or the reader's goal, is understanding at a much more nuanced level, what is the reader trying to get out of this content and how do we provide it? So here are 3 examples. Users are seeking a comprehensive guide or frameworks on how to measure the effectiveness and success of their content marketing efforts. Users want to know which metrics are important and how they impact the success of content marketing strategies. This intent represents users interested in leveraging analytics to drive and improve content marketing outcomes. So you can already see how much deeper and more specific and more helpful this level of search intent is, because it's giving you nuance about not just the overarching topic and hey, this is an informational post, but it's actually telling you what are the topics and sort of expectations from the reader's perspective that you can bake into your content plan to make sure that you provide the information they're looking for. Now, let's talk about how you actually find this level of search intent. And again, we're going to flip back to our Keywords Explorer tool. Again, the really cool thing about this is that Ahrefs makes this really simple because it's baked in. You can use other AI tools to sort of query it around, maybe build your own prompts or whatever to kind of get some of this information. But when you're using Ahrefs, it's all sort of built in natively. So let's just look at a couple examples here. Okay, so let's say we want to look at SEO best practices. All right, so we can open up this SERP. And so, well, first of all, while it's loading, you can see here that Ahrefs does provide kind of that basic level of search intent, right? So you can see here, informational, all of these queries it's showing are informational. There are some others, of course, as we scroll down, that have like commercial intent and things like that. So you can see at a very high level, kind of which of those 4 buckets it fits into. But where it gets really exciting is now that we've got this SERP. So first of all, it's showing us the SERP. So it's showing us what already ranks for this keyword. But then it's going to go one step further, which is that we can hit this button here, identify intents. And what it's doing is the AI is actually analyzing the content on all of these pages to break down the relative share of information that's contained within this content. So in other words, what has Google determined is the most valuable information to someone who is looking for information on this topic? Now, that's a game changer. Okay, so let's just look at how it breaks it down, right? So you can see here, comprehensive SEO best practices, unsurprisingly, is the #1 search intent, right? So people just want a list, basically, or a complete guide to what the best practices are. That makes sense. If I'm searching for SEO best practices, that's probably the thing I'm looking for. So what does that tell me? It tells me that my article should most likely be like a long form list format, right? So 100 SEO best practices, or something like that, where it's very tactical and practical, rather than hey, what are SEO best practices? What's the basic definition of an SEO best practice, right? People are looking more for that sort of practical, hands-on information. But they're not only looking for that, right? So that's a 70% score, or 70% estimated traffic share, which means that Ahrefs is saying basically, hey, this is like the predominant search intent, but people are also interested in some other information as well, right? So users are also looking for kind of that beginner hand-holding guide of like, hey, what, maybe how does SEO actually work at kind of a fundamental level, or what are we actually talking about here when we talk about SEO and we talk about best practices, and what does that mean? So they are looking for a little bit of that sort of introductory information. That tells us likely that the user is probably, or the reader is probably, a little bit earlier in their understanding of SEO. They're probably not like deep experts. And so we want to probably give them a little bit of that upfront context to help them understand things before we get into, how to properly set up your href tags or whatever, right? So best practices are important, but also people are looking for a little bit of information on the basics. They're also looking for information related to web development. So this is sort of where it gets into like the technical side of SEO, right? How to understand, how to integrate these SEO best practices into your actual like technical website setup. So you can see here how the intents kind of breaks things down and really gives you kind of a high level roadmap to, okay, if I'm going to construct this article and I'm going to cover this topic, the meat of this article is going to be comprehensive SEO practices. It's going to be a list of best practices. But before we get there, we probably want to sort of set the scene a little bit. And when we get to the parts that are a little bit technical, we probably want to go a little deeper into things like how do you apply this from sort of a web development perspective. So that's one great example. Let's pull up another one just to kind of see how this plays out in other contexts, right? So I don't know. Let's talk about lead nurturing campaigns. So if you're in the chat right now, tell me what you think the predominant search intent is going to be for someone looking for information on lead nurturing campaigns. Are they looking for what is a lead nurturing campaign? Oh, I'm cheating. Don't cheat by looking at the SERP. I'm looking for what is a lead nurturing campaign. How do you put one together? Best practices. There's a bunch of different things that people could be looking for. So pop in the chat. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to hide my screen here while I run this analysis. So I want to see what your thoughts are. And then I'll come back and we'll pull it up. So I'm running the analysis here. We'll see kind of what it is. But again, the point here is that search intent goes much deeper than the way that we generally classify it. And in order to A, meet the user's needs, but B, also really optimize our content for search, we have to understand that nuanced level of what is the information people are looking for, in what order, as well as to like what are the proportions of that information. And so that's really what this tool does. So let me flip back here and we'll take a peek at what the answer is according to AI. Okay, so AI says that this is, or Ahrefs says that this is a pretty, a little bit more of a split intent, right? So what that means is, it's a little bit more balanced across the topics. It's not, 70 or 80% leaning in one direction. Users want to learn about the concept of lead nurturing, right? So they, that tells us that we have to start with sort of a basic setup or basic premise of what lead nurturing is, maybe how it works, etc. Then they are also looking for strategies and tactics. Then they're looking for a comprehensive guide. Okay, so they want to sort of break down the elements of lead nurturing. They want those strategies and tips. They want some how tos, and then they want some examples. So if I were crafting this content based on this search intent analysis, what that tells me is that this is sort of that ultimate guide kind of content, right? It really covers everything from the basics to the strategies and the tactics to the breakdown of sort of the moving parts, and then even some examples of these things in practice. And so if we want to rank for this, if we want to serve the user who's looking for this information, then we really need to provide that end-to-end coverage of this topic. So I'm learning a lot by just looking at this this intent and understanding kind of what that what the focus is of the content that already ranks for this keyword. But just wait. We're going to get even deeper because the next use case, we're going to take that search intent and we're going to get even more tactical. We're going to get into the weeds on the actual article structure and flow and how we can use these AI tools, again, to really help craft and shape the content, right? So we already have kind of a basic idea in our mind of, okay, if I'm writing about lead nurturing campaigns, then I need to create kind of the ultimate guide to lead nurturing. It's going to follow these, it's going to cover these 4 main areas. But within those areas, there's of course a lot of nuance and detail. So how do we kind of map that out, and what does that look like? Let me just pull up. So the example here is something like, let's say we're writing about evergreen content. We're going to use the lead nurturing example here, but let's just say we were writing about something like evergreen content. We might get into sort of building out that basic, first draft of our outline. This isn't going to be super duper in the weeds. It's not going to be a point for point breakdown of everything that's going to be in the article, but it's going to give us that basic roadmap of what are the topics we need to cover to satisfy that search intent and to meet the user's needs. So let's jump back to the tool and talk about how we do that. Okay, so sorry, I forgot to switch my screen. Okay, so we're back in Ahrefs now, and so I think what we're going to do is we're just going to use this lead nurturing campaigns example because I like this topic. I think it's interesting. So first of all, if you want to, you can click into the keyword here. This is sort of the main like keyword data set. And you can see all kinds of information, search volume and the keyword difficulty. You can look at the SERP. A couple of things that I'll just point out here. This is a little bit of a detour, by the way, but I think is valuable. First of all, you can see the SERP here, and actually you can expand this so you can go all the way to the top 100 results. So you can really get a picture of, what is all the content that's already out there about this topic. And you can, of course, you can open this up and click into it. You can open up that intense data here, the intent analysis here, if you're looking for that. You can also look up here at sort of the history of this SERP, right? So you can see, for instance, this orange line. Let me just deselect all of them. Boom. Okay, so here's an example of a relatively new page that was not previously ranking and sort of shot towards the top of the SERP. Now it's from Zendesk, so they probably have a little bit of an advantage over a lot of businesses. But if you want to open this up, it's going to give you a pretty good idea of like what they did to shoot up in the SERP so quickly, right? Part of that, of course, again, is their domain and their authority and their brand and all that stuff. But a lot of it also has to do with the comprehensiveness of the content. And so it's going to give you an idea of, hey, if I want to replicate this success, what does my content need to look like to kind of shoot to the top in the same way? Lots of I can spend all day going through the Keywords Explorer and digging into all these different keyword tools and things. We won't do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to pop over here to the AI Content Helper. So this is actually a relatively new tool for Ahrefs. So you may, even if you're an Ahrefs user, you maybe haven't seen this tool yet. But what it's going to do is we're going to pop our keyword in, and it's going to give us a bunch of different tools that are going to help us, again, sort of in the process of actually planning this content at sort of the page level, right? So up to this point, we focused on, big picture. What's the strategy? What are all the keywords and topics that we want to cover, across our website or, on our blog or whatever. Now we're in the process of actually sitting down to say, okay, we decided we're going to focus on this article related to lead nurturing campaigns. What does that content actually need to look like? Now, again, we got kind of a basic roadmap that came from the search intent analysis, but this tool is actually going to go one level deeper. And I realized, by the way, it's working here, so it's going to take just a minute to kind of spool everything up. But it's going to actually analyze that the content that ranks and sort of the competing content for this topic at a much deeper level, so that we can get to this point of actually building that first draft of the outline and understanding what are the topics that we actually need to cover. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to break down the content that we just looked at. So as we already saw, right, there are different types of search intent that we might want to sort of lean towards or lean into. So for instance, hey, do we want to write kind of this understanding lead nurturing at a high level kind of content? Do we want to talk about, or do we want to focus on something that's more practical and talks about strategies or tactics? Do you want to talk about benefits and examples? So the first thing that you can do is, if you want to lean in one of these two directions, right? It's, of course, they recommend this one because this is kind of the top ranking or top performing search intent. This is what most of the content focuses on, but it's not all of it. You can pick one of these buckets. The other thing that you can do is you can actually turn off this group by search intent, and you can manually pick the articles that you want it to include. And so I'm just going to turn all of these on. I'm just going to say, you know what? We want to build the most comprehensive article there is in the universe on lead nurturing campaigns. So we want to figure out what are all the topics that are being covered by all of these articles, and how do we cover all of them in a way that's even more comprehensive than anything else that already exists. So now what it's going to do is it's going to analyze those articles, and it's going to give us a breakdown of the specific topics that are covered within each article, the sort of relative weight and visibility of those topics. It's going to give us a bunch of insight into like specific terms and sort of subtopics that exist. Just a ton of information to chew on. So this is the AI content helper. Let me just do a quick little tour here so that you are familiar with kind of where we're at. So this is like our writing section, right? So this is if we were going to pop some content in here, or we're going to work on some content or build our outline or whatever, it's going to be in this, kind of canvas area here. You've got your topics here. So you can see here when these topics were generated. You can regenerate your topics if, maybe the SERP has changed. Maybe you ran this, 6 months ago, and now you're coming back to it. You can regenerate it. And then you can see this list of topics. And so let's just go through this together, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of what it's showing us. So it's showing us, again, kind of the relative visibility, or the relative, I'm trying to think of the right word here, how frequently these terms or these topics are covered by the content that we just analyzed. And so the number one thing that's sort of most critical to this article is having some advanced lead nurturing techniques, basically. And if you're not sure what that means exactly, you can see here some of the related terms. So this is basically showing us what are some of the terms it's talking about here. So it's talking about things like CRM and ROI calculations, building an accelerator program, high touch tactics, building a lead nurturing flow. So you can kind of get the sense of kind of what the shape of this is. And we'll talk a little bit more about the actual outline here in just a second. But basically, this is going to give us kind of a high level view of what are the topics we need to cover, and then even more tactically, what are some of the sort of subtopics within that high level topic that we want to make sure that we cover. And then it's going to show you specific examples of other content that sort of covers this topic, so you can get a sense of like, what does that actually look like in practice, and what might my article look like, or how do I improve upon that? So this is one topic, advanced lead nurturing. You can see here there are 9 total topics that it's identified. So here's components of a lead nurturing campaign, examples of lead nurturing campaigns, lead nurturing best practices, lead nurturing challenges and solutions, strategies, tools and technologies, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to topics here. One thing that you'll notice here is that, again, the AI is sorting this based on sort of how frequently it's seeing these topics covered, or sort of how important it thinks they are. So they're not really organized around like a natural flow, if you will, right? So I'm going to copy and paste these in here as sort of a starting point to my outline. But what we're going to need to do then is we're going to have to get a little bit smarter about how do we actually structure this article, and what's going to make the most sense. So lead nurturing tools and technologies. So the first thing that you could do here is, you could just start kind of reorganizing these things into sort of a more logical flow to give you a basic structure for your article, right? So maybe, for instance, I say, hey, you know what, this is really the first thing, understanding lead nurturing. That's going to come first. Then we're going to talk about, maybe the components. And then we're going to talk about best practices. And then we're going to talk about examples. We're going to talk about some advanced things, some challenges and solutions. Maybe I combine some of these. Maybe this is components of lead nurturing campaigns. Maybe I change just the strategies and kind of combine these two, right? So the point is, obviously, I'm just doing this on the fly, so this is not the world's best outline or brief or anything. But that's going to give me sort of a general framework for, hey, these are the kind of general buckets that I want to fill in. And then what we can do is we can go to the next part of this tool. So if you look over here, there's kind of a separate nav here. So there's a bunch of other tools. We're going to be talking about titles and meta descriptions in just a moment. But one of the things that we're going to focus on right now is this headings tool. And so what the headings tool is going to do is going to show us a breakdown of the headings that are used in the content that we just analyzed. And so that's helpful for us because it's going to give us sort of that extra level of detail. Now, obviously, we're not reading the content, kind of line by line, but what we can see is, what are some of the basic topics and basic like sections of these articles that might fit into our structure. So it's going to help us kind of map out sort of those subsections, if you will, right? So understanding lead nurturing. So for instance, we might say we might grab this one, right? So you can grab this or you can insert it if you want. Now, keep in mind, you're copying or pasting this directly from the source. So of course you want to flag that or rewrite that in some way so you're not plagiarizing anybody. But what it's going to do is it's going to give us kind of some general insight into what are some of the more detailed content that's included in this article. What are the elements, lead nurturing flow, examples? So that might be so like let's pop in here. Yeah, so we might, for instance, say, okay, hey, within our examples of lead nurturing campaigns, we're going to talk about campaigns, but then we're also going to talk about flows specifically. And then I can, change that into an H3. Maybe that's like a subsection here. 7 amazingly effective lead nurturing tactics. Okay, we've got advanced lead nurturing techniques here. Maybe we want to go in there, right? So let's add these tactics in here, right? These might be something that we want to touch on. You can expand on that. You can add those in there, right? So as you can see, right, we're really quickly building kind of a basic structure and roadmap for our content. Now, again, this is still a process that you want to have a human kind of go through and look at this. I wouldn't just rely on what you're seeing in this analysis, but obviously this is much faster than if we were going through and trying to analyze all of these articles one by one and kind of piece together, what does this content look like and what are the most important topics. So yeah, we could, for instance, now we've got components here. So we could talk about, segmenting and customer nurturing. We could talk about progressive profiling. Maybe we have kind of some definitions of what these things are and kind of how they fit into the overall lead nurturing strategy. So you get the idea. I'm not going to go through and build a whole article here, but you can see how quickly and how easily I'm able to go from sort of what are the high level buckets that we want to cover here, and then what are some of the specific, more nuanced areas that I want to make sure we include in our final outline. So that's the kind of process here of building this outline and kind of giving our article some structure and flow. Let's go back to our next use case. So then we're going to talk about topical coverage. Okay, so this is, when you're actually crafting your content, whether you're into this outlining phase or you've got a draft that you've written, or you're working on a draft or whatever it is, you can also use this tool to sort of analyze in real time how well your content sort of hits all of these boxes, right? So as we're going through this, right, you might be thinking, hey, there's a lot of information here. How do I sort of keep track of all these topics and make sure that I'm actually covering everything that I should be covering? So let's look at the tool again. And I'll kind of walk through how that works. So first of all, at a high level, you can see here, there's a content score. Okay. So the content score tells us basically overall, how good do we think this content does at covering all of the relevant topics, right? So here you can see our score is currently 60. And you can see here the competitors, right? So it scored this article at a 71. It scored this article at a 93. So most likely we want to kind of outperform the other content. We might want to shoot for 100, but really what we're trying to do is at least be, better than the content that's already out there. In most cases, right? That's usually the goal, is to write the best possible content. So that score is going to help kind of guide that process. But it actually goes one level deeper, which is that we can click back to this topics section, and you can see here that each topic also has its own score. So how well have we kind of covered the basic idea of like advanced lead nurturing techniques or the components, etc. And where is our content kind of lacking, right? So our content right now is really lacking in the lead nurturing strategy section because we don't have that section we just have components of it. And so we haven't really gone into depth on what are actual strategies for effective lead nurturing, for instance. And so that's going to help guide us in crafting our article. It's going to help guide us in terms of what are some of the areas where we can improve or build out some additional content. So lead nurturing strategies, tools, and technologies we really haven't touched at all. We haven't really talked about too much about measuring content lead nurturing success. So you get the idea, right? So we can look at this and sort of use this as a guidepost of as to not only like sort of the overall depth and comprehensiveness of our content, but even more specifically, what are the topics that we've covered most comprehensively and where are the gaps? So that's super helpful. We might add in, for instance, hey, let's talk about AI powered lead intelligence in the tools and technology section, right? That's something that we could add in here, and then it should update. Yeah. Okay. Now we've got, at least some coverage of this topic, right? Still not great, but we have an idea of kind of what it looks like. As another example, let's look at what happens. So one other thing that you can do is, as I said before, you can actually pull in all of your content, right? So either, if this is like a live article, that's one thing, or if you've got like a draft, you can also pull that in. So let's import our content. We're just going to borrow this content from Campaign Monitor. So you can see here, Campaign Monitor, it has an overall content score of 71. And then you can see the topics here. You can see where it's sort of relatively strong and relatively weak. So, imagine that we wrote this article and that we were sort of analyzing it in this tool. This would give us a sort of general roadmap of how can we make it better? How can we improve upon it before it goes live? Now, one other quick thing I'll mention here is the title tag and the meta description. Let me just flip back here and make sure I'm sort of following my slides here. Yeah, instantly generate titles and meta descriptions, which is, a relatively simple feature, but it is really helpful, especially when you're looking at this in this context, right? So you can automatically generate ideas for your title tag. So you can see here, it just automatically generated these ideas. You can have it regenerate. And so again, the nice thing about this is that it has the context of the keyword that you're targeting. It has the context of the competitors, and it has the context of the content that you are analyzing. So you can see that it's sort of breaking down. It's got some examples here. You can add your title tag in here if you want to kind of keep that. Same thing for meta description. You can regenerate these if you want. And it's sort of analyzing all these things, and it's writing like an optimized meta description. Now, recommend that you kind of rewrite or wordsmith this from a human perspective. But again, just to have that automatically generated is kind of a nice little bonus. And that is those are kind of the basic workflows for using the Ahrefs AI. But I want to talk about one final thing, which is this bonus. So we're going to talk about content refresh and optimization. So obviously, what we've looked at so far, there's sort of some AI. There's sort of a layer of AI that's happening here. It's doing a bunch of analysis. It's giving you some general kind of signposts about how to craft your content, but it's not really telling you what to do. Now, you might think that's a good thing, but AI is certainly capable of doing sort of a more prescriptive level of analysis and recommendation. And so what we're going to look at now is sort of a super secret preview of the newest AI feature from Ahrefs. And so what this is going to do is going to actually provide us with specific step-by-step improvements. Now, this is going to be most useful for completed content, most likely even published content that's already on your website that maybe you're revisiting to refresh or optimize. But it's going to get super specific about what you can add, how you can improve that content, how you can better compete, or kind of outperform your competitors. So let me flip back over here to Ahrefs, and we're going to dive into this tool. So what we've been using so far is the AI content helper. By the way, this is in beta right now. It is available, as far as I know, to all Ahrefs users. So once again, if you check out that starter plan, I believe you will have access to the AI content helper. The new tool is called AI Content Grader. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to combine those names or not, but for right now, we'll just roll with it. So what we're going to do, since I have this already pulled up, I'll just use this as an example, right? So once again, this is going to be most useful, at least in its current version, if you already have a published article. So something that you're coming back to and you want to refresh or optimize it. So in this case, I'm going to pull this HubSpot article. I don't know how well you can read that. That's kind of a difficult text, but it's an article from HubSpot about creating evergreen content. Unsurprisingly, the target keyword here is going to be evergreen content. So let's just go ahead and hit the analyze button. Okay, so now what this is going to do, it's basically going to take everything that we just saw in the topic analysis and sort of the basic optimization process, and it's going to apply like an extra layer of AI that basically says, okay, now look at all of that and tell me what I should actually do to improve the content sort of step by step, right? So rather than just sort of kind of following a checklist of, hey, fill in this keyword or add this topic or whatever, it's actually going to tell you specific recommendations for how you can make your content better and hopefully improve its performance. So you can see here, it's pulled in the article here. It's got sort of the content here. It knows that we rank position 11 in the United States for evergreen content. And then you can see it's looking at some of the other higher performing content from SEMrush and Digital Marketing Institute and WordStream. And you can see the first thing it's going to show us here is kind of the topic coverage. So just at a glance, we can see, hey, we're relatively weak on these topics compared to our competitors, but we're maybe relatively strong on. It looks like this article is not relatively strong really compared to anybody, but you can see where we're relatively strong and weak basically on these topics. But then over here is where it gets really exciting, right? So here's the AI suggestions. And you can see here, again, that it's not just like a high level bucket. It's not a list of keywords. It's an actual almost human level, human editor level of sort of analysis to say, hey, we didn't really discuss the tools at all for tracking organic search sessions. What we should do is we should go into the specific tools and how to use those tools to understand the reach and impact of evergreen content. And here's some examples of how some of our competitors have done that, right? So the competitor, right, in this case is looking at SEMrush. Hey, SEMrush has a whole section about using their organic traffic insights tool and how it can help you understand and optimize your evergreen content. We don't have anything about that. We should add it. Next one, include strategies for increasing backlinks and social shares. Okay, so once again, hey, you've talked about evergreen content and sort of the role of evergreen content, but you haven't touched on kind of the broader context around SEO. And what about backlinks? What about authority? What about all these other things that sort of make evergreen content work from like an SEO perspective? And then again, it's got some specific examples from, in this case, again, SEMrush showing how they discuss this particular topic and how we might want to approach it or add it to our content. Include a section explicitly defining what isn't evergreen content. Once again, I feel like that's such a great, almost human level insight about something that we just missed, right? We said, here's what evergreen content is, but we didn't sort of exclude anything to make it more clear what is evergreen content and what is not evergreen content. That is a really helpful suggestion here. Add examples of content that becomes obsolete quickly, right? So sort of contrasting evergreen content to non-evergreen content. Discuss the importance and role of non-evergreen content. So, sort of opening the door to, hey, there's other type of content that you might create that's not evergreen. It's still valuable in these ways, but that's not what we're talking about here. Kind of covering that level of nuance. And then, balancing evergreen and timely content. So another, hey, how do I practically think about this in my mind from a content strategy or content planning perspective? Provide examples of effective balancing between evergreen and timely content. So, examples are always great. Once again, this is just sort of poking some holes in our content to say, hey, here are some things that you didn't cover that you could have covered, and that our competitors at least mentioned or at least touched on. So it's giving us a very clear roadmap for if we want to go from position 11 to potentially position 1 or position 2 or wherever. These might be some suggestions for how we get there, what we can add, how we can tweak our content to really make it better. So I'm really excited about this AI grader because I think, again, it really takes the current version of optimization tools and really takes it to that next level to say, hey, let's add that extra layer of AI to not just give you like a checklist of topics and keywords, but actually give you specific tactical actionable insights about where you can improve. So again, love that. I think it's a really exciting new tool and excited to see folks start to use that. I believe it's going to be available to Ahrefs users on various tiers here in the coming weeks. But that pretty much covers all my use cases. So we've covered a bunch of things today, from the research, keyword research, and building your topic clusters, to localizing your keywords, to understanding the search intent behind the keywords, to planning out your content, optimizing your content for sort of topical coverage, analyzing the depth and the comprehensiveness of your content. We talked about some of these like using AI for some of these like step-by-step and specific content improvements. That's it. So first of all, I have a couple minutes left. So if you have questions for me, or you want me to go back to anything that we've talked about today, feel free to pop into the chat. Thanks y'all, by the way, for your comments. I see you all talking about some of the tools and features that I'm showing here. While I'm waiting to see if there are any questions, do not forget to check out the Ahrefs starter plan, bit.ly/Ahrefs October. That's all lowercase. And that will take you to the information about the starter plan, which is $29 a month. You can check out a lot of these features on that starter plan, I believe. And that will give you access to, again, kind of the full suite of Ahrefs tools. There's, of course, some limitations compared to some of the more expensive plans, but it will kind of get you in the door and let you check out a lot of these tools and see how they fit into your own workflow. Cool. Let me just look at some of the things in the chat here. So yeah, Belinda was talking about some other tools that offer some of this functionality. As I said, obviously in this session, we are focused on the Ahrefs features, but yes, there are other tools. I'm not sure if they are using AI, but tools like Uber Suggest and things like that, that mimic some of this functionality or perhaps replicate it. So yeah, it's certainly not only things that you can do with Ahrefs, but yeah, just to give you some ideas about how you might use AI in your own workflow, regardless of which tool you're using. Um, the keywords in the text, the translation is really interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think the translation part is pretty cool to see. Belinda was saying, seems also have to compare this to Surfer. Yeah, yes, the AI content helper, which again is a fairly new feature and currently in beta for Ahrefs, is similar to a tool like Surfer, or Alex also mentioned ClearScope and Page Optimizer Pro. Right, there are some of these tools that do some of that kind of topic level or keyword level analysis. So as you saw, Ahrefs has, I think, some unique features in terms of how it kind of groups and gives you some insight about the topics. But nevertheless, yes, there are other tools that you can also use that provide some of that same guidance. So awesome. Thanks y'all for joining today. We are at our hour, so I'm going to wrap things up. But if you do have questions, of course, feel free to pop into Tofu. I'll be happy to answer questions there. We also have some folks from Ahrefs who are in Tofu. So if you have questions, please pop in at jointofu.co. Otherwise, be sure to check out the Ahrefs Starters Plan once again at bit.ly/Ahrefs October, all lowercase, or hit the bit.ly link down below in the description. Thanks all for joining me today. I hope you had a good time, and see you soon. Cheers.